Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ben, and in this episode of the Smoking Hot Confessions Barbecue Podcast, we're talking to a man who likes them big, likes them chunky, and has built some of the biggest trailer pits in the country. Hey family, I hope you're well wherever you are and you got that thin blue smoke rolling. Today I'm super stoked. We're talking to Craig Wegert from Bullockhead Creek Smokers. Now these smokers have been around for as long as I can remember in the barbecue scene, so it's going to be great to have this opportunity to talk with him today. But first up, before we get to that, I do have a couple of announcements that I need to run by you. First up, I need to let you know that winter is coming, although you probably already know that already. So we've got our hoodies are available on our website as well as our beanies. The hoodies feature our award-winning Hail Mary design on the back, and our beanies have the beautiful 3D stitching on the front. So that's all done at Gold Coast Workshops here. So, if you do grab some of them, you're not only supporting us, but you're supporting some other local businesses there as well. And they are going to keep you warm, and they are very cool looking stuff too. Now, if you are just at the start of your barbecue journey, do head on over to smokinghotconfessions.com. Check out the Beginner's Guide to Real Barbecue. It's a free ebook that we've got up there for you. It recently won an award at the NBBQA conference over in the United States. So it's a well-written, it's a good bit of thing. It's going to take you from zero to hero in terms of what you need to know for low and slow barbecue. So if you're just getting into it, that's what you need next. Now, welcome to the people who are joining us live in the Smoking Hot Confessions barbecue community this afternoon. It's our group on Facebook, and it's where we record these podcasts live. So if you are with us there, make sure that you can pop some comments and some questions into the little boxes there. It's going to appear on my screen, and I can put them to Craig during the interview. Now, if you are not there yet and you would like to be a part of the live podcast recordings, do jump on over there. It's the nicest little corner of the internet. All the guff is left at the door. It's a family-friendly group, and we just hang out and talk barbecue. It's a really good time. If you're watching this on YouTube at a later date, do give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. If you're watching it on Facebook, it's a thumbs up, a share, a comment, and make sure you're following us as well. IGTV, yes, we are on IGTV. It's the little love heart and the follow. And if you are listening on a podcast app, particularly if it's Apple Podcasts, 5-star rating and review, they're super helpful for us and help us do what we need to do. All right, so back to Craig. Now, in this episode, as I said, we're talking to Craig Wegert from Bullockhead Creek Smokers. He's an iconic pit manufacturer from just up the road from me here in Brisbane. And his latest build for Up in Smoke in Western Australia. I don't know if you've seen the photos yet for that, but that thing is a monster. And on top of that, a very good friend of mine has the first ever Bullockhead Creek smoker manufactured. So he's got 001. So that's going to be really cool to speak with Craig. So I think that is probably a good time now to bring Craig in here.
This is the internationally awarded Smoking Hot Confessions Barbecue Podcast with your host, Ben Arnott. How long's it been since your last confession?
Craig, mate, welcome to the show. It is good to have you here.
Hey, Ben. Nice to see you, mate.
Nice to see you too. So tell me, what was the last thing that you barbecued?
The last thing I barbecued was 2 8-kilo briskets for my wife. Not because we were eating 16 kilos of brisket. My wife is very health-orientated, naturopath type thing. She has an autoimmune disease or condition, which is called fibromyalgia, and she's looking at a more, because we barbecue a lot in our place. We barbecue all the time, but she's looking for something slightly less than your salt and pepper direct on your brisket, and she's looking for something with more sugar alternatives in your porks and your ribs sort of area, because I like Central Texas style barbecue, so I'm very much your salt and pepper on your beef, very much your Kansas City type of pork and ribs, so very sickly sweet almost in your sugary in your pork area. So she was looking at doing that. So being Craig and having where our workshop is at Sumner Park in Brisbane, we've got Hillman's Meat Company. Not that we got a big butcher's supplies place basically across the road from where we are.
Very
And just
handy.
fortuitously it's there. And I rock on in and grab, she goes, can you get a couple of, small briskets? So I come back with 2 8-kilo ones because that's small for me, one under each arm. And we cooked brisket, and she did a whole bunch of test rubs and flavoring stuff that she's working through, all natural type flavors, lower in salt, lower in the sodium, lower in the sugars, because we barbecued that. And then just before we did the 2 briskets, we did some ribs and some pork. So that's what we last barbecued. 16 kilos of beef is what
Very
we
nice.
put through last. So but and her flavors turned out well. But that's the sort of thing that she was working on. So I did what I could, because trying to help her out, cook a bit of beef.
Course.
And there's nothing better than, if you do get a bit of time off, because that is my only time off. If I'm not at the workshop welding up a barbecue, I'm at home, and I'll actually, like on my days off, I will barbecue. And nothing better than to sit by a fire, from early in the morning until mid-afternoon, cooking that style of barbecue. It's meditation, it's relaxing, it's a coffee in the morning, beers during the day, and a scotch in the afternoon. It's, it's the way to go. And I find it after, I'll work 30, 40 days straight sometimes, and then have a day off, and I'll barbecue.
Wow.
We run our own small business, and we'll work 30, 40 days straight without a break. And, we'll do 16-hour days, and then I'll stop, and people go, oh, but you're going to spend all day cooking. Yeah, I like it. I like cooking barbecue. I really do. I really do. If I could do that for a job instead of welding them, I would. I would. I enjoy the early start of barbecue. Like if you go to spend 14 hours, slow cooking, because my favorite thing to cook is brisket. That is my favorite thing in the world to cook. It's what I started with. It's what I do very, very well. And if you're going to spend 14 hours of your life doing something, do it well, do it very well, and enjoy it. There's something about the meditation of watching a fire, watching the fire roll, because if you're looking, you're not cooking, so you're just watching the fire and seeing the temp gauge and watching the smoke, and getting ready for that when you wrap or when you test, if the meat's ready. And now, because I've been cooking for so long, I with our smokers, I barely even look at a temp gauge anymore. I watch the fire, and I know what the temperature of the pit is. And I've got an old Frankenstein pit in the backyard that came out of the part of it came out of the scrap bin, and part of it came out of an offcut, and part of it came out of a smokestack change one Christmas about 5 years ago in the back in the workshop. Amanda said to me, that's my wife, she said, you need to cook some stuff. We've got a huge family gathering coming for Christmas time. I said, I sold my number 1 smoker. I said, I don't have it anymore. She goes, well, you're going to have to put something together now. You've got to cook for Christmas. So I threw a 24-inch smoker together in an afternoon at work, and it's still sitting in the backyard. And it's a Frankenstein bitted together piece of equipment, and it works, and it just chugs away, and I just sit out there and watch it. And it's the best meditation known to man. It really
no
is.
doubt about that at all. Yeah. I was just having a chat with someone the other day about how important it is to take those days, even just from a mental health perspective. Just give yourself a day, sit by the fire, listen to the music that you want to listen to, have some time out, and just do that for yourself every now and again. It's well worthwhile for sure.
It's a tough job, cooking barbecue. It is a tough job, but the peace and quiet, the meditation, the setup, the cook, and also that it's barbecue. It is fun. It is relaxing. It really is.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about that. So that Franken barbecue, was that that was a more recent build, wasn't it? So tell us about your latest build then, the Up in Smoke in WA. Tell us about that giant smoker.
That barbecue tried to kill me in many different ways. The guy Con in WA who runs Up in Smoke Barbecue, he's an icon in the WA barbecue area, catering and like festivals, markets, cooking. He's been running many different styles and small smokers. Con came to me and said, I want to build an iconic smoker. I want to build a statement piece. And I want to build something custom for what I want. And that process then started 6 months ago, with design, with refinements, with Con changing things, with refinement and design. And we worked on that process for several months. Then we got into the build process. Then there was some chopping and changing, and then we ended up with the final piece of work, which is a smoker that's 43-inch in diameter, a 4-meter long cooking chamber, and a firebox, insulated firebox and warmer that is 1.9 meters tall by 1.1 meters square, if you know what I mean. So it's a rectangle that's 1.9 meters tall. I can stand up inside of it when I was building it. I think there's some photos on Facebook of me, and I'm 6'2", and I'm standing inside the barbecue smoker welding internal seams on it. And it's just, so all up, that thing's about 5.2 meters long altogether on a trailer that's 7.7 or 7.6 without the ball on it, but 7.7 with the ball on it, and 2.4 meters wide.
That's a monster.
It's got full stainless steel kitchen and bench down one side. It's got Heatley gas grill commercial on one side. It's got 3 sinks, 400 liters of water on board. It's on a 4.5 ton suspension system on tires that are 225 by 75 mag wheel stealth cutouts on it. It's got full fairings, rounded guards, its own battery power on board to fire up its gas, hot water system, electric pump system on it. It's got a custom built gas storage and firewood box on the front. It goes forever and ever. Custom counterweights and stainless steel signs and colored backing on the signs. It was an epic build. And like I said, thing tried to kill me several times, which is not unusual for barbecue building. It's a heavy industry, but it was great to see it. A tear rolled down my cheek as it rolled out the doorway. We loaded it onto a flatbed Thursday afternoon last week, and said goodbye. And then it got trapped in Sydney with the floods. Yeah, it's on its way to Perth. So but apart from that is probably it would be one of the largest reverse flow smokers in the country, I'd say. And it's definitely one of the largest mobile catering smokers, I'd say, floating around at the moment. I can't think of too many bigger on trailer smokers that are moving around at the moment.
No, me neither. Yeah. I'm actually thinking with a machine that big, I'm surprised that you didn't put some kind of wheel between the firebox and the cooking chamber, so that as the heat and the smoke move through, it turns the wheel and generates all its own electricity. Turn it into a little mini power station.
It should have had a gas turbine in it. There was a lot of work went into the barbecue theory of building it. A lot of work went into making sure it doesn't just look good, that it actually works. Because that's a big thing about my barbecue building, is like, as a steel fabricator, you can build nearly anything. You can make it look outstanding. And my big thing to a lot of the clients who come to me with really big dreams about what they want to build, my big thing is, it's got to work first. It's got to cook barbecue. If it can't cook barbecue, there's no reason to build it. And several things that we look at is airflow, convection, heat distribution, and that type of thing, which is very important. Convection and airflow in a barbecue smoker is paramount to making the thing work. And I'll actually push back against people sometimes where they go, I want to make it 10 meters long, or, or this diameter, or I want to have 20 racks height through it. And mate, it won't draw air. You're going to, I didn't want to put as many racks into that barbecue as I did, but it does theoretically, and in practice, it does convect properly across the 4 levels of racks, because you can choke a barbecue by having too much meat inside of it, because that's what, they'll work empty all the time, because smoke will move around steel and racks and sear plates. It'll move around it. You fill it up with brisket, you're making giant big layers where the air won't convect through. So you've got to be very careful. And like, I'll push back sometimes to customers who want to put too much in there. If you really want to go old school and build Texas style barbecue smokers, 1 rack level. That's what you put into it. 1 rack level. But I understand caterers need to cook, and caterers need to get bang for their buck and everything like that. But in my experience, 1 rack level is the best. But you have to give bang for your buck, and volume is part of what caterers want to cook with. So you have to get a balance of where it works. But it really was something that, if anything happened to that on the way to Perth, I would never build it again. It's a one-off. It's a custom piece. It's a one-off. And do I want to go back down that track? I'd build bigger, but I'd build bigger direct flow, easier to.
Okay.
I'd build bigger direct flow. I have built bigger direct flow. Frankie's Smokehouse at Wollongabba has got a barbecue that's nearly 8 meters, 8.2 meters long, or something like that. 8.3 meters. Yeah. It's out of a 7,500 liter propane tank. So 7.5 kiloliter or 2,000 gallon tank, if you want to look at it that way. The 2,000 gallon tank, that's 52 inches in diameter. And it's got a firebox on it that's 1.3 meters long, 52 inches in diameter, double skinned, insulated with ceramic rock wool to fire properly. Yeah. It's got 2 levels of racks in it, and it's got a 5-degree Fahrenheit difference between the firebox end and the stack end.
Get out. Wow.
Yeah. 5 doors, 12.5 millimeter thick steel. And I literally was asleep inside that barbecue on several occasions.
Yeah.
I climbed it. I used to have to get a step ladder to climb into it to work onto it. And then I found out that I could actually climb through the firebox, through the baffle plate, and up into the barbecue smoker itself to actually work on it. And I'm a big guy.
Yeah.
I'm 130 kilos, 6'2", ex-Olympic weightlifter. I'm a big guy.
Yeah.
And I could climb through the firebox door, through the baffle plate, into the smoker to work on it.
That's madness.
It's an enormous piece of kit, but it cooks barbecue great. It really does. I've eaten the barbecue out of it on several times. I know the guy who runs the place really well now, and went there for my birthday, and the barbecue that comes out of it is fantastic.
That's what you want, man.
On something that big, but that's my whole thing. They can look as great as they look, and they can be a spectacular piece of artwork on somebody's business, on somebody's backyard. But if it can't cook barbecue, there's no reason for it to exist.
Yeah. So tell me, you mentioned that the Up in Smoke one had tried to kill you a couple of times. What happened there?
Well, when you're swinging that much steel around, and my wife and I work in a business, but I'm the fabricator, I'm the builder. So all the stuff you see is built by me personally, by hand, with no helpers, just me, my forklift, and overhead crane, steel lifting bars, crane jibs and stuff like that. When a 2-ton piece of steel wants to roll,
ooh, yeah,
and you still think you're Superman, and you're not anymore, you can get trapped between some round pipe and some other places in the workshop. And that one in our current workshop, we have 2 bays in our workshop. We have a fair bit of room, but we have 2 divided bays with a big Besser block wall between them. And so that thing could go into the bay lengthwise, but couldn't go any other way in the workshop. So it was quite hard to adjust it and move it. And injury in barbecue building is not uncommon, but this thing literally tried to roll and kill me. It tried to, and like if you're trapped up against a piece of barbecue and you can't reach your phone and call for help, you're in some serious trouble.
That's
like
big trouble, yeah.
It's 2 ton worth of barbecue that wanted to roll, and yeah, it did try to kill me. So it's a love-hate relationship with that thing.
Was it nicknamed Christine by any chance?
Pardon?
I said, was it nicknamed Christine by any chance?
No, not nickname. I'm not sure what they're going to call it yet. I had some words and some names for it that we can't say on air.
I'll bet.
On several occasions. I had nightmares. I had dreams about it, and I had nightmares about that barbecue. That thing followed us around, and then in its final stages, it brought the rain, Queensland, that wouldn't stop. So
that was you.
That was me, and the rain followed it to Sydney. And I think it could be following it across the Nullarbor into Western Australia as well. So that thing, when it was ready for paint, we couldn't get a weather window to get it. It's that large. Like you're talking something 7.7 meters long and 2.5 meters wide. We had to get that primed and painted during monsoonal rains. And it had to come out of the workshop and into another bay to do it. So every time I wanted to move it, so we have a forklift with a tow ball attachment on it. We hook it up, and you can pinpoint drive barbecue trailers around with our forklift and a tow ball attachment, move them anywhere you like, and park them on a dime. It's not like a car. You can just pick it up, drive around, park it on a dime. But every time I opened the roller door and that thing was ready for paint, the rain would come. Literally, it would, and you can't spin it around the workshop to work on it. It's too big. So it just, and like we had weeks of rain. And the moment, the last week when the rain stopped?
Yep.
It was on a truck headed to Sydney. So it's a strange coincidence.
Got a project you'd like to work on with the SHC team? Shoot Ben an email on ben@smokinghotconfessions.com and let's have a conversation.
So we've just been talking about your latest projects and what you've been up to recently, but let's go back in time. Can you tell us how Bullockhead Creek started out?
Okay, we when I say we, my wife and myself, and earlier, I wrote my kids into working with us as well. When I moved from engineering into full-time fabrication in our family business, and we worked in fabrication, contracting, engineering, and that sort of stuff since 1999. But I was employed as a full-time engineer after I finished my tool making trade. And I moved from engineering into our own home-based business for a while, and then into our workshop in 2011 after the floods in Brisbane. And we still fabricate gym equipment because I'm a former Olympic weightlifter. So we would build squat racks and gym gear and weld up benches and you name it, we would build gym equipment, and did for years and years and years. And we ran our own gym for a while, and I was heavily involved in weightlifting for a while. But one day I, because traveled the world with weightlifting, been to Poland, been to Georgia, seen different styles of food, and being an ex-super heavyweight, I love to eat, so there's food everywhere. So some of the best barbecue I had is actually from Poland. Some of the stuff from Poland. Oh, the street food barbecue in Poland, fantastic. Really, really fantastic stuff. And like I said, I've traveled around the world, found Texas-style barbecue. It intrigued me. It interested me because it's so different to what Australian barbecue sort of has. People think the barbecue is a gas grill. Now, I'm from the country. I grew up in the country, and I would light a fire to cook barbecue. Okay, I've been starting fires since I was about 5 years old. I'm not allowed to. I'd cook over fire since I was a kid. We'd come from Gympie, from the farm. So we would, I'm born in Maryborough, brought up in Gympie, would cook over charcoal, or fire. That's how we would cook. It'd have a hot plate on it or a grill on it, but we would light a fire to have a barbecue. And then somewhere along the line, the world in Australia, or the Australian barbecue scene, went to gas. It was throw a shrimp on the barbie, throw
early 80s.
Yep, it was all gas grill stuff. But my first barbecue I ever built was a plow dish on top of a wheel drum, on top of a piece of pipe. I think I would have been about 12 or 13, because I could weld from a very early age, being a kid from the country. Yep. I could do everything. You know, I could weld, I could build anything I liked, and worked on machinery and stuff ever since I was a kid. So I got a wheel hub, a piece of steel fencing pipe, a plow dish, and a big hunk of steel plate, and a big piece of steel mesh. And I built this really weird looking sort of top hat style barbecue where you'd put the wood around on the plow dish, and on top of that would be a hot plate and a charcoal plate, and we would fire that up and cook our steaks and our sausages and stuff on top of that. So I've been cooking over fire for a while, and being a steel fabricator, tool maker, build everything. And I ran into Texas style barbecue, and I thought, I like that. Then I did some research and looked at a bit of it. I thought, I really want to try this. And then in Australia back, you go 8-9 years back, you couldn't get an offset barbecue. You could track down some of the Silver Creek ones, but that was about it. That was what it is. And being a fabricator, I've gone, I'm going to build one of these.
Yeah.
I had a workshop, and I went, I'm going to build one of these. So I did a lot of research, and my engineering came into it. And I backward engineered everything that I could remember and I could see and I could research. And being a civil water engineer, worked out fluid dynamics and how things should flow and how opening sizes and everything. And I researched everything, and you had guys online saying you should build like this. And I was in the forums overseas and seeing how it did my own calculations, worked out what I wanted to do, and built number 1, 001 barbecue, built that.
I know where that lives.
Yeah, I know where it lives too.
Yeah.
I built 001, but I bought enough material, because it's being a fabricator, being a business, you if you build your home barbecue, it's going to cost you a lot more than building in bulk, because the more you buy, the cheaper it is. And our steel guys, everything. So I thought, I'll build one for myself, and I'll knock a couple of these things together and stick them on the corner and put them on Gumtree or on Facebook somewhere, and I'll get rid of them. I'll get my money back at some stage, and I'll have my own barbecue in the backyard. So I built a 20-inch, and it was very much, if you know Gator Pit from the States. Yep. Richie from the States, if you know those guys, Gator Pit, Lone Star grills from there. It's very much along those style of barbecue pits. Simple, but really functional, good heavy bit of kit. We use 1/4-inch steel pipe on all our barbecues. And I got the material in, and I worked on it, I built it, and I cooked on it, and it worked. And my mate said to me, "Guys, you should put that on Facebook." I went, "You reckon?" He goes, yeah, you should put that up on Facebook. And so I built number 1, put it up on Facebook, got some interest on it. And I went, "Oh, that's all right. I got some material, and I can do that." And then I got some real orders for it, because number 1 looked all right. Number 1 looked okay for the first time attempt. And I got some more. And this is just before the competition scene really kicked off. Okay. And so I built number 1, and we didn't even have a name back then. It was just, our fabrication business. I just built it and put it up on personal pages and stuff, and not even a name. And I'll tell you where the name came from a little bit later, but we built number 1, and then I got some interest from some guys, and the build process started from there. And then we said, the guys that we got interest was from Mile High Hawkers, the competition team, wanted an offset barbecue, hard to get in Australia. So we got one of those, and then the Smoking Hot Bros wanted 3, and we had to build
Top
3
dudes.
identical ones. And so we thought, this is going to be a real thing. We're going to have to get a barbecue business name, and we were kicking around all these different ideas. And like I said, our workshop's in Sumner Park in Brisbane, which is in the western suburbs out towards Ipswich area.
Mm-hmm.
And I kid you not, where our workshop has been and is on a place called Spine Street, which is the main drag in the industrial estate in Sumner Park. 2 buildings down on the T intersection is Bullockhead Creek Street. And there's a creek that floods down the bottom of our street called Bullockhead Creek. No word of a lie. And I was driving home one day and I looked at the sign and went, that's not a bad name. And then I drove across a bridge and the sign's on the bridge. I went, yeah, that's all right for a name. It's sort of like it's cattle, it's beef, it's Australian, because I'm very much like I like Central Texas barbecue, but I'm very much, we're Australian. We build Australian. Like people talk about US low and slow. This is Australian low and slow. This is what, we've got our own flavor on things over here, So that's where the name came from, and where it really kicked off was the backyard scene took off and the comp guys took off, and we built about 4 spec smokers, what we call back in the day comp spec smokers, which were 20-inch offsets with 20-inch firebox and 1/4-inch steel. Very, very a la, like I said, Lone Star pits, Gator pits type inspiration on them. Calculated to work like I did a lot of R&D on number 1. And once I was happy with that and we got the name out there, it went, because the other thing it is, like, I'm a realist. We're getting steel pipe, and I know everybody knows how much steel costs and steel pipe costs. And I never want to rip anybody off. So I have what I see as, what would I pay for something and what is a reasonable price for something. This is wood on fire cooking meat. It's not rocket science. I haven't invented the wheel here. I just have perfected what I can do. I perfected my craft, and I build a bulletproof barbecue smoker. That's what I build. It works and works well. One of the comp guys, I think if you know, I think they've changed the name, but it was Limp Brisket. He bought a 20-inch of it. I think they're another comp team name now. But the guy from Limp Brisket back then bought a 20-inch off of us for competition, picked it up on the Thursday, cooked on it in competition on the Saturday, and won the brisket with it. And he said to me, he goes, they just work. They just work. That's how they are. So that's where the whole thing started, was with comp scene, with a little bit of backyard scene, and then the popularity of it. And it is Texas style barbecue, I suppose, Kansas City style barbecue. But I like to think of it that we put our turn onto it in Australia. And I like to think that we are quality built item at a realistic price, and that's where we started. We didn't want to put, astronomical American prices for imported stuff into the country to have a barbecue that was a quality built bit of kit. And I think that's where the whole thing came from, that made us popular in the start. And today I still think that we are great value for money. With everything that's going on in the world, pricing and steel and everything that's going up, we still, we try and keep it as lean as we can, because we're just a small family business, and we try and make a really quality bit of kit at an affordable price that's not overly priced. And I think that's part of the success. It's realism in what we do. And it's like, you don't get up and weld for 16 hours a day, or sometimes you work overnight to get, we build people's barbecue dreams. We do. Yeah. We build a barbecue dream for somebody. You don't go and invest, and like, for what they are, you're looking at a couple of $1,000s for a small barbecue unit. That, for what we build, is good value for money, but it's still, you try and talk your wife into spending a couple of $1,000s on a barbecue and see how far you get with something that you're going to use every weekend that will take 14 hours of your life away every weekend. She's not going to be too impressed. So we try and give great value of money at a realistic price. And I think that's been really good for us with quality build material and stuff, and an Australian product that, you know, that brings people's barbecue dreams to life. And that's what we do. Like, you don't get there and go, I'm going to build barbecues, and that's what you do because you want to make a coin out of it. These things will break you. They'll take your life away. You know, like a barbecue build can take a couple of days to do, or if you've got something stubborn with a door, like door fitment is one of the big things on a barbecue. If you can't get the door to seal and fit properly, it's basically a piece of junk. And the door can take you an hour to fit, or it can take you a day to fit. It just depends on how the steel plays.
Yeah.
You know, you don't sit there and try and hit a deadline and get a barbecue to a customer for them to use in competition, for catering, or for their birthday party in the backyard. You don't work 20 hours a day sometimes, or work overnight to make sure this thing hits the thing without a little bit of love in there. Because sometimes you start down the journey and you can't finish. You've got to stay with it until it's done.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Now, one of the things that you do build that I'm fascinated with, and I really hope it takes off over here in Australia, is you build those little tailgate smokers that mount into a tow bar fitment. Tell me about them. I'm fascinated with this idea.
Okay, we started building, I want to say novelty, but more a specialist style barbecue, mini smokers. So as you know, we follow America to the end, and you build in inches in diameter because that's what we think about. So we talk about 20-inch, 24-inch, 16-inch, 30-inch, 50-inch smokers. We talk about them in diameter. We built 8, 10, and 12-inch barbecues, right? Just little tiny ones that can cook a rack of ribs or something. And it was a novelty thing that we threw out there. We hit our sweet spot with the 12-inch. Okay, the 12-inch can fit a brisket inside of it, a decent sized brisket, and you can have enough room for 2 racks. So we built those. They were bench versions and stuff like that. Now, I've seen tailgating in the States, and I know how big it is. Tailgating grills, tailgating competitions, the whole lot. And I said to myself, I'm going to put one of these on the back of the four-wheel drive. So again, being an engineer, did some research, worked out what I needed to do. And we mount our 12-inch mini smoker onto a attachment. So it's still a 12-inch mini smoker on its stand, but it comes off of its stand and gets hard mounted onto a tow bar attachment to a 50 mil square box tow ball attachment that you mount on the back of your car, four-wheel drive, or your mum's Barina, and away you go. Away you go. You're talking about 65 kilos of steel on the back there. So they have 2 handles so you and your mate can lift them up, or you can wheel them on there. And they slide in. They lock into your tow ball attachment. Okay, so you take your tow ball tongue out, slot them into the 50, put the securing bolts through. If you can't see your number plate, you have to get it's like a bike rack on the back of your car. If you can't see your number plate, you've got to get a duplicate number plate fitted and mounted onto where it can be seen from the back of the car. Mm-hmm. And you can, we drove the first one to Bundaberg's barbecue battle, where we set up a little vendor stand in 2019 in May. We drove that from Brisbane to Bundaberg on the back of our four-wheel drive, loaded up for the show for the weekend. And the looks you get when you're driving down the freeway with a barbecue smoker mounted to the back of your car. And we've sold a few of them. We've sold a few of them. I really hope they take off. I last saw one on Facebook and Instagram for a guy that we sold it to out Ipswich way. And he was up the beach fishing, pulled up with his smoker running on the four-wheel drive, parked in the sand while he's fishing on the beach.
Very cool.
He's having a great time. He was camping away, and he's got the barbecue smoke, and that's what it for. We took the first one to Bundaberg, and I cooked dinner on it for the kids. I cooked I think some ribs on it during the show for that day. Took it to the Race View barbecue competition in 2019 as well, and set up a stand there. And I cooked pork ribs on it that day, and runs a treat. Goes really well, really does. And I do hope it takes off because it's a fun thing to do. If you can have a tailgate competition where you turn up with a whole bunch of tiny barbecues and grills on the back of the car, I can't think of anything better. And my idea is that you can take it up the beach or take it camping and take it fishing, because if you're going to sit around for 12 hours camping or something like that, fire up the smoker, get it going.
That's the appeal for me too. We love to go 4-wheel drive camping, and I just love to have one of them like on the back of my 4-wheel drive and just head out.
We had a guy come in. We've mounted one to the front of his camper trailer. So
wow.
Yep. So he's got some sort of mount point that we had on the front of his trailer, and we mounted it to the front of his trailer. And he's also talking about if he had a recovery point or a tow ball point on the back of his trailer, that he'd mount it on the back as well. So there's a couple on some camper trailers out there because, yeah, if you're going to go camping, it's great. But, you can't take your 16 or your 20-inch camping. It's a little bit of a headache to drag that stick burner out there.
Oh, yeah, it is.
So,
You're listening to the internationally awarded Smoking Hot Confessions podcast with massive barbecue nerd Ben Arnott.
Alrighty, Craig. So we're now in the third segment of our show, which is always the lesson for the listeners and the viewers. So you wanted to talk to us about the hidden art and science of pit building. So I'm going to just sort of sit back and be quiet now and just let you share some wisdom with us.
Okay, so you want to build a barbecue smoker. Okay, there's several ways to do it. A lot of people like to repurpose gas cylinders or repurpose old tanks of any description to do it. That's great and everything. Be very mindful when you're doing that sort of thing that it is a real risk of you blowing yourself up if you don't know what was inside that container before you go and cut it open. Because steel needs a friction cutter, a plasma cutter, an oxyacetylene torch of some description to open it up, to do all the things. So if you're going to recycle material, I like to build out of new steel. I do build gas tank barbecues, and I build some large gas tank barbecues, but we deal with air and gas specialists in the field, and we've been trained and taught how to purge and cut into a tank without killing ourselves. So I know the risk and I know the danger, and it's a very real danger. So
it is,
even into a 44-gallon drum, that if you don't know what's been in there, then you've got to be very careful. You got to wash it out, purge it. The best thing to do with those, like with an LPG gas tank or something like that, and disclaimer, don't do this at home, okay? But if you are hell-bent on opening up an old gas cylinder or an old tank of some description, you don't know what's been in there, fill it up with water and dishwashing soap of some sort, drill a hole into it, and while it's full of water, with your electrical leads out of the way, because you probably don't have a plasma cutter or an oxyacetylene gear in your garage if you've got a friction cutoff wheel, cut a small slit into it while there's a whole lot of water inside of it, and don't get the electrical lead wet, but cut down a bit and let the water then drain out of it, because as soon as you opened up that tank enough with a big enough slit into it, it's no longer a bomb that's going to explode and become shrapnel around the house. So, though, if you're going to cut into a tank, be careful. I like new steel more than, like, I'll build you a tank, a barbecue out of an LPG tank. I will, but I've been cutting into them for years and I know what I'm doing. So at home, it's a very real danger of something going bang if you don't do it properly. We like to use new steel. We use new steel pipe. We buy it in bulk. We buy meters and meters and meters of steel, tons of it every year. It's easy to work with. So source your material, source your tank, get it right. The next step is calculate how it's going to flow. So you need a decent sized firebox and little tiny fireboxes, because that's the only bit of steel you got left over. Again, it's not about looks, it's about function. And over the years of building them, I've found the bigger the firebox, the better. It just is. It just makes a barbecue more efficient. to a certain degree. There is ratios and science behind it, but a decent sized firebox for your cylinder, and then work out your your stack and your opening. So on an offset pit, why it's an offset pit is because the firebox is offset to the side, and the firebox predominantly is lower than the actual cylinder of the cooking chamber, so that the hot air rises, goes across the food, and goes out the smokestack. So you've got to calculate. Then there's several different forums online, several different calculators online that are fairly good. And that will give you a flow rate, opening sizes, and stack sizes. And that's the basics of it. Like, we've got our own designs and stuff that we've worked out over the years, which is a formula that we've worked out that is our patent, our trademark. It's our proprietary information. That's what we do. That's why our pits work so well. But it's not, like I said, it's barbecue. It's not rocket science. It's simple. Trial and error. You'll work it out. Steel's great. You can add to it and you can take it away. So you can weld a piece back on if it's gone, or you can open it up a little bit more. It's forgiving stuff, nothing that the grinder and the welder can't fix, And then the other big thing is door fitment, which, like I said, that could take you an hour to fit a door, or it could take you a day to fit the door. Steel has a tendency to move under heat, under the different types of manufacturing processes of cylinders, of pipe. If you use pipe, the door will spring. It'll spring open, and you'll have to try and form that back into shape to make it fit the cylinder again. And when you cut the cylinder hole, the door opening hole out, the actual opening moves as well. So we have many methods and many tools in the workshop to make these things conform back to what you want to do. But again, our material that we use is 6.5 mil thick. So making that move, that's our standard. We do thicker stuff, like we do 8 and 12 mil thick steel as well. But our our lightweight barbecues are 6.5 mil thick carbon steel. So you have to make that door seal, and that, if anything, that is the art of building a offset stick burner, is making the door fit. And flange it inside, flange it outside, make it look however you want it to look. But making that door, persuading it back into its position, is the art of building a good barbecue. The rest of it is just your own artistic appeal and everything to that. If you've got the firebox size right, if you've got the opening and the stack sizes right, if you've got the door fitted correctly, the rest is whatever your take of what a barbecue is. There is no rule of what it is. I know what I like when I look at a barbecue. I know the dimensions. I know, in my eye, what I think is aesthetically pleasing when I look at a barbecue, which has changed over the years a little bit. I've moved very much now towards a very traditional Central Texas style, Aaron Franklin style barbecue type thing. Took a lot of inspiration from Aaron Franklin over the years, from his barbecue. It just, his whole demeanor of how barbecue is, and his relaxed approach to it. Like, he's a perfectionist. He likes to do his things his way, but it doesn't matter if you get it wrong. It's barbecue. You learn from it. You get it right again. Same with building your pit. And I like to style my pits towards that now, because that's a really aesthetically pleasing look that I've seen. So that's how I like to do it. But if you're building a pit like that, those are really the three things. Whether you put monster truck tires on it, and a stand, or pneumatic folding front shelf, or a collapsible smokestack, it's up to you. But if you can get those three things right, you'll build a pit, and that could take you, several weekends at home building it, or it could take you, months on a project. But it's very satisfying to build your own barbecue. As a professional pit builder, we are very much into precision laser cut parts, folding parts. Again, we build a lot of barbecues. We buy a lot of steel, buy a lot of pipes. So it's economical for us to do it. And I know that if you're doing a one-off design or one-off things like that, it can be a little bit more expensive. But that's why a lot of people like to recycle parts. There's nothing wrong with handcrafting parts. We don't handcraft parts in the workshop because it just takes too long. So we've got CAD, we've got 3D Inventor, we've got, conversions to cut files, and we contract out a lot of our cutting stuff because to manufacture parts, to hand build parts, they're all hand designed, but we get profile cutters to cut the bulk of our parts out because we would be forever trying to finish a barbecue. But if you're building one at home, then trace out with some chalk on a bit of steel and cut away to your life's contentment, because if you're building it at home, you've got the time to do it. We're in a production facility, so we need to churn these things out. So we've got machines and processors and welders and gear all over the place to make our job easier. And having the right tools makes your job easier at home too. But not everybody can afford plasma cutters and 250 amp welders and have 3-phase power and forklifts. The forklift is a great tool for pit building. It really is, because like a small pit can weigh a couple of 100 kilos when built out of 1/4-inch steel. And a forklift with its hydraulics on it can really persuade things to go back to where they should be. So, if you've got a forklift around your garage, then, it's going to be a great tool because, you can use the hydraulics on that to create, things that will to persuade things to go into the way they should be. But having said that, nothing wrong with a bit of blood, sweat, and tears and a sledgehammer to push steel back into where it needs to go. It wouldn't be the first time that I've used a sledgehammer to try and make steel go back to where it is. Heat and hammering will really move steel around.
Yeah, I'll bet it will, man. I'll bet it will. So now's probably a good time to start wrapping up the episode. So I'm going to throw the studio over to you. Give some thanks, give some shout outs, give some praise to people that have helped you out along the way, and make sure that you do tell all the listeners and the viewers where they can track down Bullockhead Creek Smokers on the social medias.
So just a big shout out to the guys that I started up with in the industry, like to the comp teams, to the ABA. Like when the ABA came along, I got involved with those guys a little bit. I try to stay out of the politics of barbecue as much as I can, but I got in contact with Jay and the guys when they initially started up. And a big shout out for them because I was a contributor to them in the early days, and been down to Port Macquarie, so had a great time down there. Talked to Jess when she was involved in the scene. Big shout out to Andrew at Black Iron Smokers from way back in the day. And we still chat every so often about barbecue when we get a chance. To the comp teams in Brisbane, Smoking Hot Bros, Mile High Porkers, those sort of guys that the initial startup in the comp circuit. If it wasn't for those sort of guys, we probably would never have got those barbecues out and got to where we were, had the exposure from the ABA and the comp scene. To guys like Jimmy Osborne at Bluebird Smokehouse, one of our customers who bought a smoker, then ended up having 3 of them. To the catering and the restaurants around the place that have them, from Tasmania, Melbourne, New South Wales, Sydney, all the way up to Cooktown, to Darwin, to Perth, to all our caterers and comp guys that have bought barbecues from us. There's so many. I could go on forever, but to thank for the community that supported us and have been behind our product, I can't thank you guys enough, because it was just a mum and dad, small Queensland business that sitting there building stick burners, living the life, building barbecues. It's hard work, it's dangerous work at times, but at the end of the day, my bad day is building a barbecue. It's not a bad day. And if you're looking for us on the intraweb, we've got, if you Google Bullockhead Creek Barbecues, you'll find us. We have our website, Bullockhead Creek BBQ, Instagram, Facebook is Bullockhead Creek Barbecues, and that's where we are.
Beautiful, man. Look, thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your 14-hour days that you're doing at the moment, pumping out these 200-plus pits per year.
So I could be here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'd sent 2 barbecues out, started at 1 o'clock this morning so I could be here in time.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Well, I really do appreciate it, and I'm sure that all the viewers and the listeners do too.
Not a problem, Ben. Not a problem at all.
And there you have it, family. That was Craig from Bullockhead Creek Smokers. How much fun was that? That guy's got some good stories, I tell you what. We're going to get him on again at another point in the future, and we're going to get him to tell us the story of his Burley barbecue comp experience. So we'll have to get him back on in a few weeks and talk competition, because I think competition was about the only sort of angle on the barbecue scene that we sort of didn't really talk about, was his experience as a competitor. But man, I learned so much in that. How good was that? That was amazing. So, all right, now, before we do wrap this up, some quick reminders for you. Winter is coming. We've got our hoodies and our beanies available for you. SmokingHotConfessions.com/shop. Let us keep you warm this winter. We've got our free ebook available for you, The Beginner's Guide to Real Barbecue, over on SmokingHotConfessions.com. And, of course, we do have the Smoking Hot Confessions barbecue community right here on Facebook, where we are actually live recording this podcast right now. So we have had some people be a part of the show today, and that's been absolutely wonderful. So you can come join us there, and you can be part of the show as well. And of course, before you do leave us, do all the likes and shares for us. Help us out on the socials. Tell a friend about the show. 5-star rating and review. It would really help us out, and we really do appreciate it. And that is about all the time we have for today. So until next time, take care of each other and keep on queuing.
Thanks for listening to the Smoking Hot Confessions podcast. Head on over to SmokingHotConfessions.com for recipes, tips, and Ben's own confessions.